Ready to go live?
Hello, everyone. So this is the launch of our The Live and Give show. So we are so excited to have you join us. My name is Hua Win. I'm here with my lover, aka
Jaime Gonzalez.
and
Maria Coleman.
so, this has been such an exciting day. We've been wanting to do this show, almost a year now. We've been discussing of really
2 years.
2 years of wanting to really launch this Live and Give show. So I'm so happy to have you guys join us, but we really wanted to tell you the premise of why we're so passionate of putting this show together. So I'm gonna let Maria start us off with a quote, because I think it's perfect of especially launching and seeing the bloopers behind the scene of getting all of this actually started. Why don't you start us off, Maria?
Well, I don't know the quote by heart, but it is a Theodore Roosevelt quote that just basically says to use what you have, to do what you can, and wherever you are. And I think that that's very indicative of what we're doing today. Exactly. We're using what we have to do what we can. And so we're glad that you guys are joining us.
Are you going to tell them what went on?
I mean, if you will comment and we get a ton of likes, we will actually show you some video footage that you will not believe. I mean,
Maria and I think are very tech savvy, but this podcast and y'all should see how our office looks right now. There's wires all over the place, and Hua's not very tech savvy, so she was just kind of chilling. And but
Wait a minute now.
Okay, you did the mic.
The mic and the camera stabilization. I did pursue.
that's right.
Yeah.
But the name of the show, The Live and Give, a big part of our own journey. We all have our own story, just like you have your own story. And the live part is, really making sure that each and every single one of us really lives life fully, right? And there's so many pillars in the wheel of life. And we will touch upon, each episode, we will actually touch upon different topics that are all relatable to life. And regardless of which point we are in our journey, that we do the best we can and we move forward. And it's about progress. Correct? And share with them about the give part. Why is the give part so important and part of the being able to experience life to the fullest?
And I think our story, we've been, kind of grinding for probably 20 years or so almost.
What are you talking about? We've been grinding a lot longer than 20 years.
The past 20 years is but because, I had jobs as a teenager, I wasn't really grinding. I was just showing up and, kind of doing my best, but I was not working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, so that's the grinding part that I'm talking about. And now that we have, a good platform and, a lot of people just whenever we go to events, they come up to us and ask us, hey, what are you guys doing differently than everyone else is? But the giving back for me is being here and kind of giving some nuggets, from, what we've learned from all our mentors. Because we do have a lot of mentors that have taken us, to their best, and we just make the time go, very, very quickly whenever we take a lot of their courses. But, we have to thank them, first. But I want to share a lot of what they have taught us here in this particular platform. And that's, the give back model that, that I like because of this podcast that we're going to be able to do. And, we do have, a lot of charities that we give back to. And hopefully, and with this show, we have them in that platform and we can give back more even to those charities and our time and money and things like that. So, but I just want to share, and that's what we're about, kind of sharing more of our knowledge and for free, so, and you don't have to pay, hundreds and thousands of dollars, kind of like what we have, so, and, but, it's, you have to give, what else can you do, just besides the grind, right?
Mhm.
So you have to give back, and that's where we feel good, just that gratitude part, so what do you want to do on this show, Maria?
Well, I think it's important. I know that we started off the podcast talking about just doing what you have with what you can, or doing what you can with what you have. And that's so important, because I believe that many times is what holds people back. Right. You might think you're not ready. You might think that you don't know enough. You might think that, who's going to listen, or who's going to be able to benefit from something that I have to say. And I think being able to just encourage people out there to, yes, you can. And it is difficult, but we can be here too. We can be a sounding board. If you have an idea that you want to launch, or if you have something that you'd like to do and you're not quite sure where to start, I think sometimes being on the outside and looking in is really helpful. So I'd love to see a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
I often talk about being extra in the ordinary, which ultimately makes you extraordinary. And there are so many people out there that just have no idea. And I think that many times it's because we take our gifts for granted, because we've been with them all our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't necessarily realize that those are true gifts. We think that everything that we do comes naturally to other people, and that's not true. So it would be super exciting just to hear from other people on what makes them special, what makes them tick, what lights you up. And finding that is going to be exciting.
No, I definitely love that. What you think is your ordinary is somebody else's extraordinary. And with each of our own journeys and our own adversities and challenges, as we learn and grow, to pass that along to the next person to help elevate and uplift, that's really part of the journey. And, our show really isn't focused on just one pillar. We will rotate around. But one of the big things, that we talk about, sometimes you hear about the different F's, right? We talk about faith. We talk about family, finances, fitness, right? Philanthropy is not a F, but, has the F sound. So to give back phonetically, the philanthropy of it, right?
Failures.
Our failures. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, right? Because sometimes you see somebody's wins, and you see, and you think, well, I will never be able to attain that, or it's not relatable to me, right? But if you hear about the fears, the challenges, the vulnerabilities, and the things that they had to go through in order to be where they are. And, what's that saying where you don't want to judge somebody else's, your own chapter 1 to someone's chapter 21, maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't really know what they've been through in order to attain where they are. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not about competition. It truly is about collaboration, and how can we share the wisdoms and nuggets and life experiences with one another. Right. One of the big ones is fear. Right. I think a lot of times fear of just the unknown, of failure, fear of, am I good enough? Fear of not knowing how to get started, right? Mm-hmm. And do it anyway. We all have to start somewhere. The best in their field, the best in whatever, the best athletes, the best singers, the best whatever, they had to start somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I encourage you, if you're listening in, to make sure to know, hey, wherever you are in your journey, but figure out, what do you really want, right? Who are the people that you need to connect and be around to uplift you, to give you that support? I can't tell you enough how much that's been a big part of our own growth journey, right, Lover?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and like we were mentioning earlier, we want to have guests that have already been there, super successful people that we have met in all these events. And a lot of them are our mentors. They will be on the show. They will talk about their successes and how they got there. They will talk about how they failed and what they did. And they would talk about their fears. We want to have something kind of fun and maybe like a spin the wheel type of thing, so with all the F's, and they have to answer, in an assortment of those, questions or subjects. Right. So, but I wish I had someone early on that I can rely on, and so they can guide me, so I can go to the point there I wanted to get faster, so, and, we had books and things like that, but now it's like, there's so many great free information that you can get at your fingertips, and you can, learn very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. So, and that's where a lot of, especially now, it's for younger kids, it's a little bit it's a lot tougher, you know, whenever we were kids, because we're all pretty much the same age.
Unmuting.
Give us, if you hear us, let us know if you actually hear us. I see Lori. I see Guillermo. Oh my God, we haven't seen you in forever. I see Michelle joining us. Milen. Oh my goodness. Can you hear us? Tony, welcome.
We can hear now. Excellent. Thank
Yay!
you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Sorry, guys. You see, this is our launch of our first episode, you know, so nothing's going to be perfect. And this is a perfect example. It's like you do it anyway as we're launching, but thank you for the feedback. And as we do more episodes, this is our very first episode. We will improve on the things that we don't know, right? But I don't want you to hold that back. I don't want you of the unknown to have that hold you back. So,
if possible, I'd like to restate, just before we lost audio, Jaime asked the question about what I'd like to see also happen on the show. And I think it's quite important that we talk about the fact that, yes, comparison is something that is very common, and that's because we have access to so many people's highlight reels, right, via the social media, and expediting those fast tracks to success. And I think comparing one success to someone else's success sometimes holds us back. And what I was saying is that I'd love for us to introduce some tools and some strategies on figuring out what exactly lights you up. Sometimes you're in a profession because you're good at it, not necessarily because it's something that you're passionate about. And as a result, maybe you don't necessarily fulfill your potential in that space. But if you could identify a way to truly figure out what it is that lights your soul on fire, I really think that you can be unstoppable. So that'd be fun to see. And then as a result,
bringing guests.
Yes.
Or
So,
what are you talking about?
well, as a result, we could also leverage the tools and the strategies that these very successful individuals have employed, because one of those may resonate. So once we can identify a tool or a strategy to figure out what lights your soul on fire, then maybe you can leverage the tool to really hit that home run in your own life. So I think a combination of those things.
Mm-hmm. And I want to make it really clear, because sometimes, you know, especially growing up, when I used to hear the word success, I always tied success with some sort of monetary or financial milestone. But that's just a small part of the equation. And a lot of times success is very unique to each individual. And so trying to figure out what your own definition of success, what makes you happy, right? Because not necessarily having $1 billion or $1 million or all these fancy things. Maybe for you, it may be, just having really good health, being able to have good relationships and good people and having a good family. Or it may be just having inner peace, not being stressed, right? And so you have to define what success looks like to you, because it's really important. And when we say we want to bring successful people, I want you to make sure you don't think success means just financial success. It's people who are really living life or really overcome adversity, and that's all of us, right? But being able to and willing to have the abundance and heart-centered mind to share with others the tools and resources that they've been able to utilize, not just sharing their story for inspiration, but how did they get themselves out of this hole? We've all been through dark moments or weak moments, which does not make you or us a weak person, but it's a time lapse, and your past does not define your future, right? And so that's what we want to share, that there's so much wealth and richness in life that goes so much beyond what our society kind of implants in our mind as what we define as success, right? And this show, and that's why I want to really, take this show on a whole nother tangent, like an exponential growth, where we talk about different areas and different methods of how we overcome those things. I was at a conference this past weekend, and you talk about different things of passion. One of the unique things about going and meeting new people and doing different things and getting out of your comfort zone is you discover different layers of yourself, right? We've all grown and learned different layers and things that we like, something that we don't even know that we're passionate about. Like, a lot of people get kind of caught up because they're like, well, I don't know what I want. I don't have a clear vision for my future. I don't know what I'm really great at. And that's okay. That's the discovery process. Your self-discovery is an ongoing journey, and you will discover skill sets and passions and talents that you didn't even know are within you, right? And, it's one of those things that this past weekend I was talking about people sharing their story, fear of speaking, but because they overcame so much adversity that they've now been able, they want to use the platform of speaking, whether it's a virtual stage, like a podcast or a show, or getting onto a live stage. But the goal was to impact more people, to share that message, share your story. It's important because it can impact one person that can really create a ripple effect, right? What is one of your favorite topics? I mean, we're going to go into more depth, but for the next episode, what topic would you really like to go in depth in? Do you have one that you prefer? Now, we're very, we can mix match, but what do you really want to focus on?
I want to talk about, people, how they failed and how they overcame it, so I think, I had mentioned a couple times, last year, if there were conferences that they would just have 20 speakers and about how they failed and what they did, I think initially it would not, grasp a lot of people the right way. But I think that would be, for me and for everything that we focus on, I think that would be the most impactful. I can learn the most what people did and how they overcame it and what struggles they had. So like right off the bat, if we could talk about the fear and how people failed and how they overcame it, I think I would learn a lot more. I mean, yeah, it's success stories are great, and let's talk about how we succeeded with this, and this, but let's get down to the nitty gritty, right? Like, not Nacho Libre, right?
Right. First nacho reference.
But I think I would be ecstatic, if we can start off, the first few shows with one of those topics.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
The next episode, we personally, individually, so you'll get a little bit more flavor of who we are and share some of our own fears and failures, right?
And I think, once, for people that are ever interested or not interested in speaking, and if you're just kind of at work and as a group setting, or if you do want to become a speaker, once you become vulnerable and talk about all your adversities and open people's heart and let them in, then people can start, being more impactful, right? If I go up on stage and say, look, this is how much I own, this is how much I've bought, people are going to tune you out, right? So I tune them out. People just start, saying how much they have on stage. It's like, I've heard this before plenty of times, it's time for me to, go to the restroom or go get a drink of water or coffee or whatever, so but if we start off, this show, we start off, I think that would be a good plan, good plan, right?
I have the title. We're going to call it Failing Your Way to Success. Because ultimately, I think that the failures, they also allow you to be vulnerable. You talked about that vulnerability. Brene Brown also talks a lot about vulnerability and just that courage to just be human. And I think that when we do that, it gives other people permission to do the same. I think many times we want to shield those failures because in some instance, they hurt. We're human and we have feelings and emotions, and it could be failures of all sorts, right? Personal failures in relationships, perhaps, or failures in your career, failures in just things that you didn't take advantage of, right? Regretting some things. So I love that idea. And I think that we have plenty of those to go around. Plenty of failures, for sure.
Now, we have some of you on live with us. We would love to hear your input. And if you're watching the recording of our live later on and you're listening to this episode, we want this to be very interactive. We don't want this to just be us speaking to you. So we want you to give us some feedback. What are some topics that you would love to hear more about? You can put it in the comments. If there's anything that you'd like for future episodes to make sure that we include and talk about, we are open to that. Would love to hear your feedback on what you would like to see and hear more about. But, this is one of those things that, we talk about the failures, but most of the people that we've talked to that have really grown a lot that are out there, they said that their fears and failures are really the most pivotal moments of growth that made them become stronger and really catapulted them to the next level of who they were in their journey, and so a lot of times if you haven't quite experienced failure, then maybe you haven't really pushed yourself out of the comfort zone enough to fail. And I remember, that was one of my things is perception. We so fear what people think of us. I've always been a people pleaser most of my life, and that was hard to feel shame upon failure because people put you on some pedestal thinking that, oh, you should be the best or you've got it all together. Like, no, we don't all have it together. We all struggle with something, regardless of who you are, regardless of where you are in your journey. Everybody still struggles with something and is trying to improve in an area of their life. And so this whole theory of we want to be perfect or people want to perceive you a certain way, there's no such thing. There's no such thing as perfection. We're all growing and learning and trying to better ourselves. And so I really want you guys to know as you're watching us that, we want to keep it raw. We want to keep this real, right? It's not about the ego. And so we really want to share what can make it impactful, that, just sharing where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, right? And we want to take people alongside us.
Absolutely. Can I mention something about engagement? I may be dating myself here and I'm totally okay with that, but do y'all remember the old school radio shows where people would actually call in and would ask questions? So often, I'm a big podcast person. I love to listen to podcasts and I love to listen to audiobooks and to learn from others. But imagine if that was a two-way radio. Imagine if that was a channel that you could actually tap into. And when I say channel, imagine us as being, in a way you're confidant, but also your encourager. If you had something that you're just not quite sure where you would go with that, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes it just takes someone from the outside looking in to help you get unstuck. And I wonder if we could do, a segment or something like that, where if someone is saying, I wonder how they would go about this, or if they have a way to move this chess piece for those of you chess players out there. I think it would be fun to kind of take a peek into your life and just figure out how to help you get unstuck if we could do that. Not to say that we're experts by any means, but perhaps we've had an encounter with a situation that you can then leverage our experience. And I'd be happy to do that.
I love that idea.
Mhm.
We're an open book. If you have something, you're catching us live and you have a Q&A and you wanted to ask us about anything. And if we will answer to the best we can. I like that idea. Absolutely. Right.
I want to read that comment that we have online. Can you see that?
I'm going to read it off of here because it's a little bit closer.
Okay.
Hi, Sherry. How are you? Okay, let me read what your message says. I had my business for almost 40 years, making monumental moments in kids' lives, selling leather jackets. I would wake up every morning wanting to make sure I was successful. I had to give it my best. I put a lot of trust in my business relationships and discovered halfway through those years, through a wide awakening, that business is business. Those words rang loud in my ears. This did catapult me to the next level. I love this. Let's be real.
Good for you, Sherry. Thank you for sharing that, Sherry. That's so important. It's so important for people to know. And pain, we talked about that earlier, right? Sometimes it takes that pain. You're no longer wanting to be in that situation, and that's painful, or the pain of change, but one of those has to be greater. And I think that those words ringing so true, you can tell that that's something that still has an impact. And for you to share that in case someone else can resonate, really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Sherry.
So, no, I was just going to say, we probably have to let our audience know, when is this show going to take place? How long is it going to be? When are we going to start having guests? Can they chime in and then ask questions?
Yes. So, Mondays are great days. We will be, every Monday, if you will join in at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time would be a good time for us to go on. We'll let you know. We will go, as far as a Q&A session, I think once or twice a month for those to be live Q&A. Or I don't know. I mean, we're live, so we haven't planned this out as how often. We just thought of the live Q&A time, but we can do it as often as we'd like. I don't know if you want once or twice, but consistently join in on us every single Monday. We will be going live, and if it's, come join us.
And we'll also have some pre-recorded episodes, just depending on the schedules of our guests. So we will definitely announce when those will be, and we will share the links to our socials, links to our website, so that you can engage with us there. And again, this is something that we want to be of service. We're always looking for ways to be of service, and I think that this is just yet another way for you guys to kind of peek into what it is that we do day to day, and how it is that we handle obstacles and challenges and relationships, and we want to help as much as we can. So we're glad that you're tuning in.
Yeah, there might be some remote areas that.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
I was like, we're actually thinking about, purchasing a little house in the middle of nowhere in Japan, and so I'm not sure the connection's going to be the best there. So we're going to have to figure something out.
We'll record that one.
Starlink, I don't know.
Starlink.
Yeah.
If you don't know us yet, we're big travelers. We love to travel the world, love to really give, it gives a perspective, to experience different people, different cultures. And if we can take you along in that journey, that's definitely really great. Some of the exciting things we have in the horizon for 2024, we're going to be hosting our very first Power Couples Retreat in a private island in Belize. And that's going to be out in July, and we'll get more information for that. But again, it's really incorporating, and not all of our retreats are going to be for couples specifically, just this very first one will be towards couples. But we want to incorporate where we have transformation. This is going to be 4 days, 3 nights of an absolutely transformational experience. We will actually have a transformation coach, success coach, who's been in the industry for over 20 years there with us. And, Jaime and I have been together now going on 19 years. And so when you talk about love partners and life partners, business partners, being able to have, how do we make it happen, right? What are some nuggets that we can share in our journey and as a couple? And then on yourself, right? It's a big part of self-development, finding who you are, what you want individually. And then, Jaime and I are so different. If you guys don't know us, we're very different people, but we're able to connect and we're very complementary and we're able to elevate one another and be each other's support system. And, I think core relationships, everything, if it starts in the inner core, self-development, relationship with your significant other, your children, your family, and then it's the outer, right? It goes to community and then being able to help. So many of us we want to help everybody else in the world, and we're not filling our own cups and we're not making sure that we're taken care of and that we're happy at the core, right? And so we want to incorporate these different aspects and have a lot of fun. Like when we do these trips, OMG, you talk about a food and cultural experience. We go to Belize. I mean, we've been going there for 2015. We go there every few months. And so that's like our second home. And so we want to bring people to experience this, but also be a part where you're going to have fun with your significant other.
You're going on a private island?
On a private island. It will just be a very small, intimate group that we're going to be bringing on. And we want to keep it small. We want to keep it intimate. These retreats are meant for that because we have our own journey, been to a lot of different retreats and things that have transformed us. And we want to be able to share that, all the different pillars of life. We want to be able to share that in an intimate, fun, memorable setting. And so that's going to be something that we're super, super ecstatic about. And we'll do some that are also within the US if you're not big on traveling out. But we're going to pick something, that's going to be very memorable for you. So stay tuned for those and more information on that.
I also want to touch on fitness. I know that we talked about it and bits and pieces here and there, and fitness can take on so many different forms. You may be into something that's a little bit more mindset related or body related, but at the end of the day, if we can share some nuggets that we've learned along the way, we have different, we'll call them routines for the sake of a better word, but I think that just learning about what may potentially work for you, maybe that's not something that's been on the forefront. But if we can have you try a particular workout or a particular meditation, or at a very minimum, just be exposed to that, just creating that subconscious awareness that, yeah, maybe I do want to do a little bit of mobility exercises, right? I think that if we could pour into you that way, that would be phenomenal because we only have one body, and at the end of the day, that's the equipment that's going to carry us throughout all of these life successes and all of these relationships. And before you subconsciously tune out because, maybe you're not a fitness person, allow us to tell you that there are other ways to transform your mindset. And it doesn't necessarily have to be going out and joining a gym. So stay tuned for some good guests that can help enlighten you in that area as well.
Yeah, I think personal development, is very, very important to everyone. We were in the LA Tribune, we were having a talk there, and actually just this past week, right? And whenever they asked us the question, I actually thought of a Jim Rohn quote, what he said, the amount of income rarely exceeds the level of personal development. So I had to think about that particular quote. It took me a couple minutes, right? And it's like, wow, so if I don't develop myself, my income will never exceed my personal development. So if I don't do anything about myself, my income is not going to grow and it's not going to exponentially grow, right? So if we want to exponentially grow, then we have to develop ourselves. And It talks about, just the fitness. It talks about, mindset. But there has to be other ways that we can actually continue to grow. And that's why I'm digging this, setup. It's like we have so many personal development coaches, that we can invite on this podcast, and just asking them, hey, straight up, hey, what did you do? What are you teaching your students, that have, successfully grown so much? It's like, and they're our friends too, these mentors and coaches and everything. So they'll be here and just kind of, just for them to help, right? So because we're friends and family and things like that. So, but I'm very excited about that.
And
part.
if you're watching and you really have a story and you want to be part of our show, we really would highly recommend you reach out to us and email us, and then we'll review it. And we would love to see if you're a right fit, to be on the show with us, right? We would love to have you be part of our show, share your story, share your nuggets. And, so we welcome that. What's the best way for people to get in touch with us if they are interested in wanting to get on our show?
I'm seeing a couple of comments come through as well. I think that's a very good way to communicate with us. Again, we will share our socials shortly so that you can communicate with us via that as well. I think that is what's going to be the key. The keys will come with you participating and then us pouring into you and then you pouring into us. And I think that in fact, even in this short conversation, we have come full circle. Jaime was just talking about personal development. And I think that Jim Rohn quote, the way that I interpret that is that it really does come down to your identity. I think that many times the world and the universe will bring to you what it is that you feel like you deserve. And if you feel like you haven't worked quite hard enough, if you haven't done enough to develop yourself, then you're not going to give your best to the world. And as a result, the world will not reward you in that way. And so I think that it has a lot to do with your self-identity and just taking those steps and keeping the promises that you make to yourself. Like Ed Milet says, I think that goes a really, really long way.
I have a question coming in. So since we're seeing live, I'm going to go ahead and take the question. Thank you for joining us. So this is Mi Lynn, which is actually my cousin, right? It's been a long time. So her question is, how do you take risk for success when failure impacts more than just yourself? The mindset of it affecting others because of your own failure makes the fear 10 times scarier to not take the leap or try the venture, the different paths of success. Would you like to take a stab at that one, Lover?
And so, first of all, how do people know they're going to fail, right? So if you're not attempting whatever you want to do, right? Like, for example, this show, I mean, just a couple of days ago, we say, hey, we're going to go live at this particular time. I might have the equipment, so it's like, but we gave it a try, and it took us, an hour to or an hour and a half to set it up. But I would say, fear is the most detrimental thing that someone can actually hold, right? Babies are not born with fear at all, but we box them in. If I can take Wa as an example, with our daughter Athena, she's we call her a ninja for a reason. And she loves heights, she loves speed. Hua does not love heights, and she is completely scared of anything that is not safe. I'm not that way. And whenever, our daughter was, climbing up the stairs on the wrong side of the stairs, I'm like, I'll watch her, and if she does fall, I'll catch her. But first, let me take a picture, so I can show her, what she was doing, and she can decide, if she wants to do that again. But we are placing our fears on our daughter, and we're boxing her in, right? She is very, very creative now. And I've had not to work on my daughter, I've had to work on Hua.
And I have to
her,
work on myself.
yeah, for her not to, place her fears on Athena. So it's just your mindset, right? So if you think something is fearful and you're thinking something is fearful, I might not think something is fearful. So it is just your perception of fear. So to me, I try to do things that are, fearful.
So you do it anyway.
I would go ahead and do it anyways. So, a lot of the things that I have. So
I want to touch on that a little bit because I think that I've had an element of something that you're referring to, Mylin. I know for me, it was when I was making my career change. And I was very fearful of making that career change because I felt as if it was going to impact my immediate family and then my extended family that relied so heavily on me. I think dispelling the myth that we know what's going on inside of other people's heads. Now, for one, I have to imagine that for my children, they didn't know what I was thinking or what I was planning in terms of a career change. They didn't know how it was going to impact them. But for my husband, so someone who I could actually communicate that with, I think actually making that statement, actually opening up about what it is that I was wanting to try, in an effort that if we failed together and we would just figure out how to move forward. I know that that's not always the ideal, but to Heine's point, how do you know if you're going to fail? It's so hard to take that step, but I'm often reminded, and this little quote actually got me through that decision. It was something that I saw on Pinterest, interestingly enough, but it was a little quote that said, "Oh, what if I fall?" And then it ends with, "Oh, my darling, what if you fly?" And I just I didn't even want to look at the fall piece. It's just, I really had to focus on the fact that I felt like I was competent. I felt like I've gotten myself to this point. So why not take that next step? If nothing else, I was going to learn, right? You win or you learn. Really.
I'm going to talk a little bit about just on this particular show, just about a lot of health stuff, but how the mind is the most powerful pharmacy, and you can have a certain emotion that changes you chemically, like forever, pretty much, depending on how you react to it. I'm just going to take one example. So if you take a certain disease, for example, and you give someone the drug that they're experimenting with, and then you give them a placebo. A placebo is like a sugar pill. And you test those two groups. The big pharma, they try to make the drug successful, but it won't be successful if the placebo versus the drug, if there's not a good comparison there. So if you just take pretty much all the disease and all the medication and just concentrate on the placebo and telling a certain patient, this is the drug that will cure you of, whatever. The placebo, which is a sugar drug, will help you, or has helped 33% of the people for that disease. That's not the medication, that's the sugar pill that they take on a daily basis. So the perception of them receiving the medication, the true medication, which is their perception, which they're not getting, the placebo is helping them in 33% of the cases. So it's all in the mind, and it's all perception. If you think you're going to fail, more than likely you're going to fail. If you think you're going to succeed, but there is no chance, then from what that study says is there's a 33% chance that you will be very successful. Right. So even if there is no possible way that you will, succeed, there's still a 33% chance, because your mindset and the perception on a certain situation will change your outcome. So and we can put probably the study on the next episode, but that's whenever I looked at that study, and this is taking thousands and thousands and thousands of medications, and for a sugar pill to be 33% successful, my mind was blown, because the mind is extremely powerful.
When you share about mindset, we hear it all the time. You talk about positivity, you hear about mindset. And when you're in a dark space, or when you're just like, you're in a really rough situation and you hear all these people talk about mindset, sometimes there's a disconnect of like, okay, I'm doing the things, I'm being positive. How do we bridge the gap from what I believe and want to achieve, and like this big thing out here that seems so far out of reach? How do we bridge the gap from where I am to where I want to be? And, even though we talk about mindset and you think it's one thing, trust me, there's not one mentor, there's not one conference, there's not one retreat, there's not one single thing that all of a sudden gets you from here to there. It's it's consistency. It's small things that you learn to feed your brain subconsciously. And it's different things that you have to do on a daily basis. You feed your mind, you feed your soul with these rituals, we call them, these habits. And it's small things. It doesn't happen overnight. The decision, the choice to want to go that direction, to change your life, that's immediate. Like right now, that doesn't take a lot of time. But to execute the action steps, to get the results you're looking for, takes absolute consistency. And that's why you have to continue, feeding your mind with subconscious positive things. Whether you're listening to, we talk about Jim Rohn and Les Brown and Zig Ziglar and all these different people, but we're programming this every single day, even if it's just 2 or 3 times a week, that you can listen to it while you're getting ready, 15, 20 minutes, reading something, a book for 10 or 15 minutes a day, excluding it. We stopped watching the news and the TV, for a period of time, for the most of it, because we had to cut out the toxicity. So it's really building a protection, a barrier, what you allow into your mind, the people and the voices. Your inner voice alone is 80 to 90% negative naturally. So to reprogram that, to implement positive energy from other people and other voices, it's a reprogramming, right? And that's something that I've learned along the way, that I'm like, hey, I attended this, I felt really good. I thought I was going to change right after that because I wrote everything down, and then it's like this yo-yo, right? And what I learned is, in order for true change to be sustainable, it has to be part of your daily ritual, and your habits eventually slowly change. Nothing drastic, because if you do something completely drastic and you don't sustain it, it's hard. The mind wants simple steps. If you make it too complex, you get overwhelmed. The likelihood of you executing is very slim. And that's what I've learned through my own journey. Everybody has their own method of what works for you, right? But I say there is no magic pill. So if you're looking for that magic pill to go from there to there is no magic pill. It's progression and daily habits of you changing. What are little steps that you can make right now? And it's a choice, and you have to be so ignited within that you're like, I decide today, no more excuses. The bull crap and the stories that I have put in my head, that stops today. And those are the things that, for me at least, that has really helped move the needle forward, right?
Yeah, and at the same time, but you have to be prepared, right?
Okay.
It's like this, I'm going to have this particular, say just a test, for example, you just can't jump in there and take the test, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be prepared for that certain situation. You have to be, research, what are other people doing? But yeah, it's the daily habit, the subconscious mind. I like what you said, is like 90% of our thoughts are not positive thoughts. And then 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts we thought about yesterday.
Right. Yes.
So it's like, oh my gosh, my brain is filthy, right? So you just have to, continue to remove all the filth, and then just, continue to put your positive, your smiley face on, because even smiling just kind of changes your chemicals in your brain, so it's, but being prepared, I think it's important for you to, do the certain task. You just can't be walking in there, headlights, it's
Deer in headlights, right?
deer in the headlights, so.
There was so much to unpack there as well. And I think one of the things that you touched on is that really we're like buckets and we can't give more than what's in us. And so if you're constantly feeding yourself things that are not necessarily going to serve you, then that unfortunately is what's going to surface when you get to that time when your subconscious is talking to you, right? So we have the conscious brain and the subconscious brain. And I think just knowing the fact that everything that I'm a faith person myself. And so I know that God says, do not worry about tomorrow, for today has enough worries of its own. And I think just knowing that you can pour into yourself, and from that, if you continue to pour good stuff, if you continue to consume good material, good content, surround yourself with people that are positive, then naturally one day that will start oozing out of you. And so we definitely want to focus on that. The mindset, the thoughts, the thought processes, the placebo effect that Dr. Hyman was talking about. We hope to teach you guys more about that from what we've learned, and we want to learn from you as well. I know that we're getting some additional comments coming through, and we love that. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to know whether you agree. We want to know whether or not you have some additional things to add. But we talked about the mind also. In many cases, the mind's job is really for survival. We have the mind's job is to kind of look out for dangers, and naturally that's what you're going to gravitate towards. But you need to trust in yourself and trust in your skill sets and trust in the people that you trust around you, and they're the ones that are going to help you move the needle forward.
Awesome.
I see some familiar faces and names on here. Hi, Paul. We have Paul Peoples on the line.
He's one of our mentors.
Yes, he is. Thank you for joining us. We have Henry. We have Lisa. We have Lawrence. We have Nealyn. We have Tommy Luke. Oh my God, Tommy Lucas is on the line. Oh my goodness. So we went to optometry schools together. So we've got, people from all walks of life. And, we didn't make it here alone by any chance, right? We put in a lot of the work, absolutely, blood, sweat, and tears, but all the relationships in all the different areas, whether, it's our journey of work through our eye career, right? Our optometrist, or our real estate career. And the core is relationships. And it is, whatever it is you're growing, and it's about meaningful relationships, right? People that you can really have synergy. And it's not, don't have the get attitude, it's the give attitude. How can we create synergistic relationships and help elevate one another, right? And if you, what is that saying? If you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want, right? And
Zig
Ziglar, right?
And everything in life you want, you'll just help enough other people get what they want.
And it is a byproduct, like, all these other things are byproducts, but, think about the intentionality of what you're doing, the authenticity and the pureness of your intentions when you're talking to people. People can filter through the BS. People can filter through if you have other intentions, right? And it becomes pure, and it's little acts of kindness. I always think when you think about the give component, it doesn't necessarily have to be a monetary gift or anything. It's even if it's your time, even if it's just going on your social media live or doing a podcast and sharing, or someone else's podcast and sharing nuggets, opening the door, smiling, like you said. You don't know what that person's day or what they might be going through, that inner struggle. And they may look perfectly normal on the outside, but just your warmth, smile, a kind gesture, a hug, or anything like that could have definitely impacted their life that day. So acts of kindness and changing and impacting another person's life happens every single day, every few moments. So I don't want you to think, giving has to involve these grand things where you're doing mission trips or you're doing a big time, stroking a big check. You start where you are. You start wherever you are. And, trust me, your words and just your kindness that alone can truly impact someone's life. But I think we're going to wrap it up in a few minutes. Any last words that you would like to say?
And I'm very excited about this show, and there's not going to be a show like this. So it's we listen to a lot of podcasts, and we love a lot of podcasts. So we're going to take a couple things that we like from this podcast, because they're excellent speakers as well that are going to come in here and blow your mind. So and our mentors and our friends here, which we've learned a lot from. So a couple of them are watching right now that we saw. So I'm super excited, and I can't do it with anyone better than the two women that I have here on stage. So I'm excited about it.
Oh, see, guys, at the next one. Thank y'all for joining us. If you have been here from the beginning, you guys have earned the prize of looking at a little bit of behind the scenes. You may remember that I told you that if we got enough likes, we would show you just exactly what's going on behind all this prim and proper stuff. I want to acknowledge Dr. Hua. Jaime and I laugh a lot because, when Dr. Hua brings us along, we never quite know what we're getting ourselves into, but we know we should be ready. And that was definitely the case today. We went from unboxing and just kind of setting up the equipment to possibly doing some test recordings to going live. It's a good thing we matched.
And maybe one of the episodes we can kind of, if we actually look okay on screen, I mean, we can actually help some people kind of start, a podcast or two. So
We love that.
anything that you're excited about, or?
Oh, I'm always excited. I always throw you guys in the whirlwind of, don't know what's going to happen today, right? Just always be prepared, right? But I'm so excited to start this and finally launch it, right? Even if we're like, we don't have it all figured out, that's okay. We're going live. We're super ecstatic to be part of this journey with you all, and look forward to the next episode together with you. So remember to live and give. Thank you for joining our show.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time. I think we can end it all.